There's no doubt that building out a board portfolio is a key theme, a key message I get from senior corporate clients who would really like to operate this way in their later years. But across the board, we see a lot of people who try to, put a board portfolio together and are really struggling. To get the right caliber of appointments into the portfolio, to get the portfolio so that it is actually generating reasonable income and being afforded the opportunity to come into the right business networks and be presented with the right opportunities. And we see people time and time again come to us and they've sort of struggled sometimes for years, and they've only got a couple of small not-for-profits on their resume, and they've got a lot of unpaid work happening, and they just don't have the caliber of the appointments. So, my strong advice is you need to just take a little bit of a step back and you really have to understand what is your board portfolio strategy? What are you trying to achieve? What is the end goal? Too many people just allocate time to various boards and just hustle, 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 get any board, put any board into the CV, onto the profile. And the reality is, you've got to have a clear idea of what the end game is. Where do you want to, eventually sort of land in terms of the types of appointments? Where could you add the most value, and how could you pull this all together? So, most people I meet who are not working, obviously, with me on a board portfolio strategy are pretty lackluster when it comes to their actual overarching direction. They're corks in the ocean, as I like to say. They just don't have the clarity on what they're trying to achieve. And of course, that doesn't bode well, because you need to have, if you're going to be successful in this space, a quarter on quarter strategy for the activity, the actual things you are going to do to advance your board director career and connect you in with the right people. The second key issue I see is that people are, really not crystal clear on the value proposition. Where would they add the most value? And they fall into the trap of applying for the advertised jobs that we see on the market. They're in with 600 other plus applicants, and they're really not doing extremely well here because they're not clear on where they would be a top 5% candidate. So that value proposition has to be sort of the fundamentals of where you would add the most value. Now, I've never worked in the telco industry, so why would I go for a role in that space? I know human resources, I know recruitment, I know, capital raising. So I'm going to zero in on where I can add the most value and where I have, the right level of experience. A lot of directors come to me with the sort of pitch that, they're going to bring a fresh perspective to the table, and their experience in this industry could translate into other industries. Well, that is very naive, because you're not understanding the market, you're not understanding the level of competition, you're not understanding that there are many, many, if not thousands, of board directors that will have exactly what, the company is asking for. So, it's really naive to think that, you can, transfer skills into other sectors, other industries, and it's all going to be valid. And that comes down to a little bit of, not having the real clarity on how boards work and how the game works and what really goes on behind the closed doors. And then finally, I'll just mention that I think most people who come to me and they've struggled really lack board director networks, deep board director networks, and they're almost impossible to develop overnight. And they're almost impossible to develop by just going out to a few people and sort of asking for advice. I find a lot of people come to me and they're saying, well, they've gone and had all these coffee meetings and they've asked for advice. I mean, that is all a waste of time in a lot of cases. And it won't necessarily result in actual real board director appointments. So you really do have to get the clarity up front on what you need to be doing here. So you need to have a clear strategy, you need to have a clear value proposition, and you absolutely need to have business networks, champions, people who are going to open doors for you. Now, obviously, if you potentially work with someone like myself, Kylie Hammond at Tiger Boards, and you get the direct access to a business network, you get direct access to chairs and non-executive directors, and you get privately introduced to the right people at the right time, that could be a game changer for you. So, if you're frank and honest with yourself, you may look at your experience and say, yep, I've got what it takes to be a board director. But realistically, I just don't have the depth of network that I need at board director level to be successful. And if you are realistic about that, well, then you can say, well, okay, I need to get someone to, proactively introduce me. I can't just rely on friends and family to open the doors for me. I can't just try and do it myself because a cold type of introduction is rarely successful and is rarely going to result in a board director appointment. The competition is fierce. There are many, many more people now in the market that want to serve on boards. And so if you really want to be successful in this space, you're going to have to really think carefully about your overall strategy to achieve results and how you're going to go about things so that you can be successful and serve in the right boardrooms and have a fabulous board director career.